Commissioners' meeting is now called to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Bretham.
Here.
Mattis Castillo. Here. McDonough.
Here.
McGuire.
Here.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Here.
Carter.
Here. We'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. The agenda of the June 22nd meeting is before you.
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you for the motion and second. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
McDonough.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Bretham.
Aye.
Mattis Castillo. Carter.
Aye. Thank you. The agenda's passed and the minutes are before you from June 15th.
Move approval. Second.
Thank you for the motion and second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
McDonough.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Bretham.
Aye.
Mattis Castillo.
Aye.
Carter.
Aye. Thank you very much. And again, this morning we have the opportunity to hear a proclamation in honor of Immigrant Heritage Month, and I'll call on Commissioner Fretham to present the proclamation at the front. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Excited. Come on up. So today I have the honor of proclaiming, reading this proclamation. Whereas the month of June is Immigrant Heritage Month to honor and celebrate the diverse traces of immigrant heritage in all of us. And whereas, according to the most recent census report, nearly 16% of Ramsey County residents identify as foreign-born. And whereas immigrants strengthen our economy, contribute to the vibrancy of our communities, and are part of a tapestry of diverse cultures that make our county unique. And whereas the traditions, customs, life experiences, wisdom, hard work, and civic participation of immigrants strengthen and enrich our county, state, and nation. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic underscored what was already known to be true, that immigrants and those who serve immigrant families are invaluable partners and leaders in our community. And whereas we honor the significant roles that immigrants and their families, especially Ramsey County employees, continue to play in improving our systems, processes, and policies to advance racial equity. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners declares June 2021 as Immigrant Heritage Month in recognition of the contributions and sacrifices that immigrants and families of immigrants have made to be here today. And be it further proclaimed, the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners celebrate immigrants whose heritage and stories of resilience are woven into the fabric of this country's history, present, and future. And now I get to introduce Lydia. Welcome, Lydia.
Thank you, Commissioner Fretham. Madam Chair, Commissioners, County Manager O'Connor, thank you for having us here today to recognize and celebrate Immigrant Heritage Month. I'm joined here by my colleagues, Amy Zhang, Sarah Hawley, Gina Postuka, Sia Zhang, and Filzan Ibrahim, as well as our partners within the community and at the City of St. Paul, who we will introduce here shortly to speak to this proclamation. As the proclamation states, immigrant and refugees contribute immensely to the economic prosperity, cultural richness, and well-being of our Ramsey County community. And the best way for us as a county to honor and value their contributions is by ensuring they have equitable access to essential programs and services, by meaningfully engaging and partnering with them, by creating spaces for their voices to be heard in key decision-making processes, and by continuing to challenge and improve our existing systems, practices, and policies to yield equitable outcomes for all. One of the ways that the County Board has done this is by approving the creation of an Immigration Legal Defense Fund of $250,000 in partnership with the City of St. Paul and the Vera Institute for Justice in 2019. This fund was used to offer free legal representation to detained refugee and immigrant residents facing removal proceedings and who earn less than 200% of poverty guidelines. Additionally, the county continues to fund and partner with community-based organizations to provide outreach, resource connections, and referrals to county services, including mental health, financial assistance, and social service supports to families in need, particularly in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. I'd like to thank the board and the county manager on behalf of this group for your support, and also want to recognize Policy and Planning Director Elizabeth Tolzman for her leadership in this work, alongside Assistant City Attorney Edmundo Lijo, who's here with us today. And with that, I will invite Filzen to introduce our first speaker. Thank you.
Good morning, council members, Ramsey County staff. My name is Filzen Ibrahim, and I am a county and a proud St. Paul resident. And it's my pleasure to introduce Salah Barre, who is the staff member of Darul Uloom. Darul Uloom has been, I'll just take this off real quick. Darul Uloom has been essential in our COVID response work. They have been a fabulous partner with our vaccine clinics. They have been tirelessly working in community outreach to bring all their residents, all their East African residents to our clinics through and through these past few weeks. Salah Barre is a teacher, was a teacher in the St. Paul Public Schools. He is a KFAR radio host for the last 10 years, and he has been organizing the community for the past 15 years in Minnesota. So without further ado, I will hand it out to Salah Barre, who's joining us on Zoom.
As a community from East St. Paul, South, and West, everywhere from St. Paul, we really appreciate the Board of Commissioners proclamation of the immigrant heritage and immigrant, what I can say, and recognition of their efforts to renew an American dream. And I always meet so many people from immigrant different backgrounds when I'm working with the community work outside, inside the Ramsey County, and especially when I'm working with the COVID-19 response or other issues. They are always in around us, and they always talk. I met also many people in East of St. Paul, former immigrants, I can say, for last 100 years. We talk about the issues. We talk about the work that we still need to be done in order to reach the equity and renew our American dream in St. Paul and Ramsey County area. And we have a tremendous outreach with the people around our masjid in Darul Uloom. We also do outreach in different issues like education, like workforce rebuilding, and also so many other issues. I'm here today to thank you and to support you your proclamation on immigrant proclamation, and we appreciate that really. Let me add this one. And immigrants, they always renew American dream and American forces to work forces, and we love to see that more issues about that. I'm also here to thank you to Lydia and Filson, who always reach to us when everything comes out, and we also communicate people with the radio KFAI on Sundays and teach them, what they need to know about the process of equity and health and COVID-19 responses and everything we needed. So we thank you very much. We appreciate that. And I am adding here today that, like this week coming is also Somali week, we say in Minnesota, that it coincides with the June 10th. And it's it's a festival for Somali community in Minnesota. that they celebrate Somali heritage and stuff. So thank you very much for doing that, and good morning again.
Good morning. I'm Amy Shaw, the Racial and Health Equity Liaison for Health and Wellness Administration, and I'll be introducing Paul Kong Pache Shong next. He is the Public Relations Chair of the Hmong 18 Council of Minnesota. He holds a Bachelor in Information Management from Metro State University and is currently an IT Business Analyst with M Health Fairview.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Gongpachai Zhong. I am the Zhong Clan representative and public relations chair of Hmong Council of Minnesota. I apologize that Mr. Chairman Nahua Moore was unable to attend this immigrant proclamation event today due to a schedule conflict. I would like to thank Amy and Lydia and the Ramsey County boards for reaching out to Hmong Council and inviting us. It is an honor to be here with you all today. In the past 2 years, Hmong Council has been working closely and partnering with Ramsey County on COVID-19 and deportation of Southeast Asian individuals. We, Hmong Council, partner with Ramsey County to deliver the message, the safety message to the Hmong community. We also work with Ramsey County to assist family members who have loved ones listed to be deported back to Laos. On behalf of Hmong Council, I would like to thank you, Ramsey County, for choosing Hmong Council to partner with. After the secret war in 1975 in Laos, many thousands of Hmong people faced persecution and fled to Thailand for their safety because they were allies of the United States. Many have settled throughout the United States, and many chose Ramsey County as their home. Now there are about 30,000 Hmong people living in Ramsey County because Ramsey County is the best place to live and raise their families, thanks to the bountiful resources available. Not just the Hmong people, all immigrants want to pursue the American dream. They work hard so that they can send their children to college. Some of them work 2-3 jobs. They pay taxes to the county, state, and federal. Many of them own businesses in Ramsey County, and some have been elected to the city, county, state, and or federal jobs. I'm so proud that our immigrants have given so much to the community in making Ramsey County more prosperous. Last, I would like to thank Ramsey County for recognizing Immigrants Heritage Month and continue to support our immigrants communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul. So the next speaker that I will be introducing is Mr. Rodolfo Gutierrez. Rodolfo Gutierrez is Executive Director of HACIR, Hispanic Advocacy and Community Empowerment Through Research, a nonprofit committed to giving Minnesotans of color a voice, as well as a safe, empowering place to share their stories, collected via research and evaluation, and helpful to promote community engagement, leadership, and advocacy. So Rodolfo will be speaking next.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you everyone there. Good morning, buenos días a todos. Good morning, everyone. I am Rodolfo Gutierrez, and I came here to Minnesota directly from Mexico 23 years ago, and I've been having luck enough to live all the time in Ramsey County, first in Roseville, and then in St. Paul, and also lucky about me having interaction with several immigrant communities, initially at the University of Minnesota with international housing for students, international students, of course. And then because of my work at ACER, after I finished my PhD at the U, working with immigrant communities, particularly Latino communities, but also with many other immigrant communities. What I've seen along this time is very big contribution from these communities, not only in the sense of bringing new faces, new flavors, authentic food from many different countries. You cannot anymore tolerate Taco Bell because you know that there are real tacos coming from Mexicans who are coming to this country. But on and on, we can add a lot of contributions, culturally speaking, but mostly economically speaking. Many of my friends who are Hmong, Somali, Ethiopian, Mexicans, Ecuadorians are entrepreneurs. They are investing in this country, they are investing in the state, and particularly they are helping the economy of the county. So I think this is a very wonderful event, just recognizing the contributions and the presence of so many immigrant communities in Ramsey. It is enormous. It is mostly necessary, and I really personally want to thank you all for this proclamation of this immigrant month. ASER has been working closely with Ramsey County, particularly since the census counting. We discovered how difficult it is even in Ramsey, which is a metro area, to find these communities, particularly Latinos. And after the surge of the COVID-19, we also entered in a different level of collaboration with Ramsey County and discovered also the needs they do have. So I hope this proclamation also serves for us to pay more attention to those who are in very high need, because they are also helping our communities, big deal, and they need much more for they to establish themselves as Bojan communities in the county. So with that, I repeat, thank you so much for this proclamation, and let's continue working all together, because immigration means richness, culturally speaking, and flavorly speaking as well. Thank you all.
And last but not least, I will introduce Assistant City Attorney with the City of St. Paul, Edmundo Lijo.
Thank you, Lydia. Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, County Manager O'Connor. First, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today to recognize Immigrant Heritage Month. We have had a very good and strong partnership over the last several years in providing assistance to our immigrant refugee communities. Our Legal Defense Fund has represented many immigrants and refugees who would not have had legal representation if not for this program. We look forward to continuing our partnership in developing programs that increase naturalization in the county, as well as providing services and access to services that are so needed by these communities. I'm here also on behalf of Mayor Carter to also recognize Immigrant Heritage Month. He asked that I bring you a proclamation that he signed this morning, and I'd like to read it to you now. City of St. Paul Proclamation. Whereas our nation has a long and welcome tradition of welcoming people from across the world into our communities and making it one of our greatest strengths, and whereas Minnesota's large group of immigrants originally came from European countries, including Norway, Sweden, Ireland, and Germany, and today we welcome people from across the globe, including Central and South America, Southeast Asia, East Africa, and South Asia. And whereas the City of St. Paul has a proud history of welcoming, supporting, and celebrating immigrant and refugee families in our community, and whereas nearly 20% of our residents are first-generation immigrants, with nearly half having become naturalized citizens. And whereas over 100 languages are spoken in our city, and 30% of our residents speak more than one language. And whereas amid many challenges of this past year, including COVID-19 public health and economic crisis, immigrants and refugees have continued to enrich and strengthen our community in St. Paul. And whereas Immigrant Heritage Month is a time to celebrate and recognize the rich social, cultural, and economic contributions, as well as the sacrifices that immigrants and refugees have made in our communities across our nation. And whereas, as we move forward together in rebuilding amid the many challenges we have endured, we continue to stand with our entire community in supporting and sustaining a city that is safe, welcoming, inclusive for all who call St. Paul home. Now, therefore, I, Melvin Carter, Mayor of the City of St. Paul, do hereby proclaim June 2021 to be Immigrant Heritage Month. Signed in the City of St. Paul, Melvin Carter, this day, the 22nd day of June in the year 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. There is so much to celebrate, and we are very thankful to have you all here in the chambers today. Thank you for your words. Thank you mostly for your partnership, as we do have a lot to celebrate, even coming through such an incredible time period as we have, and that we had the opportunity to reach out to so many in our community, many who had joined us in preparing the work for our immigrant communities through the legal representation and through the services that were provided together with community organizations and others. And we are just so thankful for the acknowledgement today that except for our indigenous Americans who claimed this land before any of our ancestors were here, we are all immigrants. And we are tied together in that we come together here, working together to make our lives and those of our children and those who come after us better. So thank you so much for all of the many contributions that our communities make here together, that immigrant communities have brought to us, and continuously labor to contribute to our communities. Thank you so very much for being here. Commissioner Reinhardt.
Madam Chair, I just want to comment on what you were saying, and I think that it is really important because remember not all that long ago having a conversation with an acquaintance, and I commented on immigrants. Or she commented, I should say, on immigrants, and I said, well, you're an immigrant too. She said, no, I'm not. And I said, well, your ancestors were. And honestly, I think that people forget that. I mean, we really do, because we think of immigrants as people within our own generation coming from other countries, and that's not the definition. And so I just wanted to point that out, that for those that are listening, unless you are indigenous, Native American, you are an immigrant.
Yes. Thank you for that emphasis. Clearly the challenge of immigration is a great challenge. And we are so thankful that many before us and even those who continue to come to this country today have taken that challenge on. With great appreciation, thank you. We are moving on then. It's always a joy to be able to have these proclamations, isn't it? And to celebrate. So with that mood, we're going to move on, acknowledging the deep trouble of the time past, but looking forward also to coming out of COVID and moving beyond. And before we go to our COVID update, let's take our moment for silent meditation. Thank you. Thank you. Celebrating that we can be here all vaccinated and without masks. I'll turn to the county manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I'll ask Deputy County Manager and Public Health Director Kathy Hadeen and Incident Commander Laura Anderson to provide today's COVID update.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Thank you, County Manager O'Connor. We continue to bring positive news, which is kind of weird. It's weird to be in the space of saying positive things. We've had, over a year of giving unfortunate information that there's like a psychological balance that needs to happen to be able to talk about positive things. But it's good. I'll get there. It's a positive thing. So we'll continue to bring that positive news, including low case rates, increased percentages of vaccinated people, and I have Incident Commander Laura Anderson here with us today. Dr. Ogawa says hello. She's out to being a medical director right now, which is perfect. We'll provide a COVID-19 dashboard update. We'll give also the vaccine dashboard update, and there's a new social vulnerability index map on our website, which is exciting. So I'll highlight that. I'll also talk about this past weekend's Juneteenth celebration and what went on there, and then we'll talk about vaccinations in our community. So if we could please move over to the dashboard. So in Minnesota, in total, 604,608 cases of confirmed positive COVID-19 to date across the state. Unfortunately, we've lost 7,549 people in Minnesota. We'll move over to Ramsey County and look at those numbers. 52,520 people have been confirmed positive, and unfortunately, 871 people have died in our county due to COVID-19. If we scroll down a little bit, we'll continue to see, I'll go back, I'm sorry. Positive news, again, 336,385 people in Ramsey County have received at least one dose of vaccine, and 308,348 people have completed their vaccine series, and those numbers are for 12 plus. Daily cases continue to go down. It's exciting. That means vaccines are working. Weekly case rates continue to go down with 4.5 cases per 10,000 residents on May 29th. We are a little higher than some of our neighboring metro counties, but we'll continue to work on that. Positivity rate for Ramsey County also continues to go down. As of May 29th, we're at 2.5%. This again continues to be important news. And so far, contrary to what Incident Commander Laura Anderson and myself and Dr. Ogawa thought, cases remain low after Memorial Day and graduations and celebrations, so that's good. Vaccinations are working. Let's move on over to our vaccine dashboard site. We continue to work toward all zip codes reaching 70% vaccination rates. Current vaccination percentages range from 57% to 83% across our county, with 75% of 16 plus vaccinated and 73% of 12 plus. I want to highlight the social vulnerability index map, which before, if you recall, you saw we would bring that information to you on a PDF. It was a little hard to read. You can now all go to our site and you can hover over each of the zip codes to see what the percentage of vaccinated is within those zip codes. A huge thank you to Christine Grill from Communications, as well as our public health planning team led by Tommy Godwin to get this information on our website. It's good information to follow. If you look at it week to week, you'll see from last week to this week that we have increased specifically in the zip codes that we've been working hard in, 55130, 106, and 103 by 3 to 4% percentages. So that's positive news. I want to move away from the vaccination site and just want to lift up some work that happened over the weekend before I hand it over to Laura Anderson. I really want to lift up the work of our racial and health equity administrators, specifically Prince Corbett, who worked day and night for the last 2 weeks with community organization of Anika Foundation, Miss Anika Robbins, to put together an amazing Juneteenth celebration on Saturday at Allianz Field. Other organizations there were House of Refuge and Santa Foundation, providing food to the community. Taste of Rondo provided meals until it ran out. Super popular. They ran out really quick. People are a little upset about that. We'll probably have to have another event. It's so good. Public health was also on site with the leadership of Mark Jackson. And Kelly Robinson and her team from Black Nurses Rock provided vaccinations. Ms. Roberta and her team from Cultural Wellness Center provided education. Because of this event and holding this event on this day, 30 people who came to the event not expecting to get a vaccine decided to get a vaccine on Saturday. That's huge. It's very huge in a community where people are still worried and they're not sure, what's going to happen and how they're going to feel and what's, how all of the historical traumas that go through their minds before they decide to get a vaccine. So out of 500 event goers, which was an amazing turnout for such a quick timeline to turn around, 30 people to get vaccinated is a positive outcome. People felt comfortable because of Cultural Wellness Center, because of Black Nurses Rock, and it just shows how important it is to invest in trusted messengers as we do this work together to increase vaccination access in our community. Congratulations to Prince Corbett, congratulations to the Anika Foundation, and the two of them, along with Racial and Health Equity Administrator Sarah Hawley, accepted a proclamation from the governor's office on site that day as well. And thank you to Chair Carter for coming and helping to celebrate the work and the huge day that it was on Saturday. So thank you. I will turn it over to Incident Commander Laura Anderson.
Thank you, Kathy. Chair Carter, members of the board, it's a pleasure to be here and to once more introduce some local numbers for your review. As of this week, we have distributed more than 52,500 doses of COVID-19 vaccine at about 234 clinics since late December. This coming week, just like last week, we intend to administer about 600 doses. That's the new level of demand that we're at in terms of community distribution. We feel pretty strongly that flipping the switch to Pfizer has been a boon for us in terms of reaching younger individuals in our community. We have been and will continue to work with our school districts, including St. Paul Public Schools. We're actually going to be distributing vaccine this week at Harding and Washington Tech. And the vaccine will not just be available to students, but also their families and loved ones. Definitely walk-in availability at those two sites. I'm also really glad to see that we will sustain our efforts to provide vaccine at our local WIC clinics, and we are incorporating Head Start programming into places where folks can easily obtain vaccine. We recognize that targeting those younger families really does matter. We're still seeing our highest rates of positivity among individuals ages 20 to 29 here in Ramsey County, so it really makes a difference to keep the opportunities available for folks in those age groups. I just wanted to briefly share, I know that our colleagues again at Research have been working with our trusted messengers to review some findings from our April community conversations. I know that some of you attended those conversations. Dr. Lynn Ogawa was at a number of those facilitated conversations with community members, getting a sense of where people are in terms of their interest in vaccine, what they know, if folks are hesitant, what those misgivings might look like. So we will be sharing a final report that outlines the findings, again, from those conversations later this week. I was really glad when we reviewed their recommendations, 6 of the 9 recommendations that our colleagues identified are actually findings that we've already started to incorporate. So you will see us really being able to pivot and integrate community feedback into the work that we're doing right now. So we'll be glad to share that with you later this week. So now we will stand for questions.
Thank you very much. You're not used to giving good news. We're not used to hearing it in this way either. So we'll pause for a moment while commissioners gather their thoughts and questions. Call on County Manager O'Connor.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just wanted to highlight a couple of the good news points on the vaccine side. Is it 57%? Is that what we're up to in the lowest tract? Okay, so we're up to 57% in our lowest census tract. It's jumping about 3% over the last week to give you a sense of the continued growth that we're seeing. And I think there's some good ways to ground that our countywide data and even some of those census tracts with the broader landscape around us. So there are 15 states averaging below our lowest census tract in Ramsey County. If Ramsey County were a state, we would be the 9th highest state in the United States. And so that, I think, really contextualizes the rate of vaccine happening here and the work of public health to get down to that level of really drilling in. And I hope that the conversations over the past month are really showing up in the results that you're seeing. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that context. We really appreciate it. Looking to the board, and I see joy on people's faces. Commissioner McGuire, then McDonough.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that good news. I know we're still working on it, and it is great to hear the numbers going in the direction, the vaccines going up and the COVID cases going down, so that's good. Do we have any more sense than what we might be hearing on the news or from our outlets that on when the vaccine will be available for younger kids? Do we have any sense of that?
The latest estimates are indicating that children as young as 2 will be eligible by the end of this year. So that's great information to be aware of. Trials are moving forward now with Moderna. Obviously, they've moved forward with their request for FDA approval for 12 to 17, and Pfizer's a little ahead of the game. So I would imagine by late fall there will be vaccine available for those younger kids who, of course, will be attending school. So.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner McDonough.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I want to talk a little bit about our 3 zip codes in those numbers, and I do appreciate the work that's been going on. But I wanted to get a better sense of kind of, now we've been in the community, we're utilizing the trusted messengers. What are the hesitancy factors, right? We're focusing in on trusted messengers. We know that helps. But are there other areas that we need to focus in on because the hesitancy is coming from a different perspective or a different reason? Because I really, I've mentioned this before, and I think, as we move forward in the work that this county's doing on equity, these numbers really demonstrate how committed we are, right? If our numbers don't show equity in how we're reaching out into the community, we've got work to do. And I just want to make sure we're thinking this through, that it's not, trusted messengers may not be what gets us to that number, right? To that equity number of 80 or 75 or 83%. What are some of the other areas we need to start focusing in on, especially within those communities, to get that number up?
Mm-hmm. Chair Carter, Commissioner McDonough, the report outlines a number of different areas where individuals expressed concern. And those include things as simple as, when I get that second shot, I'm going to miss work. Actually, that's not very simple at all, now that I've said that out loud. We have a large group of residents who really can't afford to miss work. And so that may lead to delays in receiving the second shot. I think that's information that we've heard a number of times. We've also, heard people are busy. They need those extended hours. They need weekends. They need nights. There are also continued concerns around fertility, just the long-term impact of a vaccine. The trials occurred so rapidly. How can we be sure? So I think we will be out there sustaining offerings for a long time to come. Beyond the measure of an emergency, we need to be thinking about how to make all vaccines, including a COVID vaccine, more comfortable for individuals to consider and to choose yes. So those would be areas that we have heard quite a bit. Kathy, do you have anything to add?
Sure, Madam Chair, Commissioner McDonough. One thing I'll add too is as the numbers rise in these 3 zip codes, you're going to hear us talking more about Ramsey County in general, because the N isn't the same. The number of people within these zip codes differs from the number of people in other zip codes within our county. And if you were actually to see the number of people who are not vaccinated in other spaces, there's quite a few. And so we're trying to even the playing field in these 3 areas. And as we bring this up, our scope and focus is going to stretch out across our county system. Our part of this is on us because of the way we've been focusing on this, but I don't want so much focus to get on these 3 areas that it turns into a what's going on with the people in these zip codes and why aren't they getting vaccinated, because there's actually issues across our entire county system, and we're going to hit a space where we need to start stretching out where we are focusing our work. But I agree with everything that Incident Commander Laura Anderson put forward here today. And you know, anything you're hearing from community about other ways for us to reach out and connect that you feel would be beneficial, we're open and we're ready to pivot and adapt as we can. But we know that these pop-up sites right now are still getting people vaccinated, and we'll continue to work with our trusted messengers and our community and our media messengers to get the word out.
Commissioner, go ahead.
Yeah, so, yeah, thank you for that. And Kathy, I do appreciate that. You know, we're a big county and we've got to make sure that we're paying attention. But again, when we start taking a look at it, you know, as Laura's telling me about the concern about missing work, right? So that is an issue that probably is more focused in these communities because they don't get paid vacations, they don't get sick days, and they may be working 2 or 3 jobs, so they don't get a 2-day break where they can maybe take that vaccine before that break. So we need to be working maybe with employers to say, you know what, we're going to allow, we want you to get vaccinated, so we're going to make sure that if you're, you know, your reaction is to the point where you can't show up for work, you can feel comfortable not doing that. We're going to work with you. But, yeah, pay attention to the whole county. Everybody's got to have this access, but those nuances are so much more impactful in these districts than they are in other parts of the county that we can't just say everything's equal here as far as access and ability to be able to get those vaccines, especially when we start hearing about the fear of losing, you know, a day's work, right? We've got to be able to be more responsive than just having a trusted messenger in the community.
Thank you, Commissioner McDonough. Chair Carter, is it okay if Racial Equity Administrator Sarah Hawley has information to add as well?
Thank you, Chair Carter. Thank you, Commissioner McDonough. I just want to mention the importance of our trusted messengers. I think when, you know, I looked at the report that Incident Commander Anderson mentioned this morning, it really points to that relationship-based kind of public health 101, getting back to what public health stands for. And what I heard at the Juneteenth event this past weekend from a community member working with the Cultural Wellness Center and talking with our young people that are really kind of struggling with whether or not to get the vaccine, I think that peer-to-peer education is still so important. And I think that's one mechanism that we really have to lean into and pay attention to. And that's why I think the importance of the initiative around the community connectors and our research trusted messengers is working, because we saw it firsthand at the Juneteenth event this weekend. And I think many of the folks that received the vaccine wouldn't have received the vaccine had they not had their questions or concerns answered on site. So I really want to lean into what Director Hadeen has said around the fact that that one-to-one personal connection is going to, I think, get people over the hump to get the vaccine, but also kind of reduce that hesitancy and fear. And the message that I received from one of my elders this weekend was that we have to have that one-on-one personal connection to people, and we have to make sure that we're providing resources to our trusted community agencies and members to do this work alongside public health, or we're not going to get to the percentages that we want to see in certain zip codes and in certain communities. So I just really want to preface that peer-to-peer community health worker, peer education piece is so important, particularly when it comes from somebody that looks like you, that's trusted, and agencies that are right here in our community. So as a representative of the research response team, I think we want to continue to lift up that work in community and continue to learn from public health in our community agencies what is working and what's not working. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And that is actually what I saw yesterday at the Juneteenth, I guess it was a couple of days ago at the Juneteenth event. People from our community really leaning in together, supporting and educating and encouraging, and folks coming out to get vaccinated. Thank you for that work. Commissioner Frederick.
Yes, thank you. I'm excited to see the final report of the April community conversations. My question is more about the 20 to 29-year-olds. I know, you know, we've had the opportunity a couple of times to speak with a group of young adults that Ling Becker's been working with, has there been any work to tap them to get ideas? Because certainly there's cultural community connectors, but there's also generational differences, and a group such as that might be able to offer some insights on how to reach young people. I'm the youngest on the board and still much older than 20 to 29, so I don't even know what's cool now. Clearly I have a side part and skinny jeans, but it's concerts are coming back. That feels like an opportunity. Can you partner with First Ave and hold a section where you can actually see the band for people who get their vaccine? I'm trying to think of something cool, but obviously failing. So can you talk to some cool people who are ages 20 to 29 and find out how to get them to get a vaccine?
Chair Carter, Commissioner Fretham, I can't even think of what to say because I'm not a cool person. And you bring up a great point. And we've been having this conversation of what is the sticky thing? What will it take for the younger cohort to say, okay, I'll do it, And so we are working on it. And I think it's a good suggestion to work with Workforce Solutions and Ling Becker. I know we're looking at trusted messengers within the age cohort and younger. We're also connected to Dr. Ray Moss, who is working to create a youth consultant group to work with us here at the county, and that group will be a fantastic group as we continue to move through providing vaccines into our community. We know we're not going to be done by the end of summer. We know we're probably not even going to be done by the end of the year, and so we do have some time, unfortunately, to continue to connect with young people. But if you meet some cool people and you come up with some great ideas, we're all ears.
I'll ask my daughter. She's almost 13. She's kind of cool.
We all think Commissioner Fretham's pretty cool.
Yeah, we think you're cool.
Thank you so very much for the update. Again, good news, good work. We really appreciate it. Are there any final comments before we move on? No. Thank you again. Then we have a lot of work before us. This is a day in which we have a marathon schedule of meetings. And as we've said before, we're going to sprint through it. So with an objective to begin a workshop at 10:30, and our administrative items, policy, and also ordinance and updates, and also an HRA meeting before that. And with that, I'll turn to Commissioner McDonough for our administrative items.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'll move item number 4, terms of collective bargaining agreements with the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees, Local 8, and the Assistant County Attorney Unit for the year 2021. Item number 5, terms of collective bargaining agreements with Teamsters Local 320, Correctional Officer 3 for the year 2021. Item number 6, eliminate wages below $15 per hour in Ramsey County salary plans.
I'll pull that.
Item number 7, master agreements with vendors for materials testing. Item number 8, Larpenter Avenue Emergency Road culvert repairs. Item number 9, appointments to the Community Health Service Advisory Committee.
Thank you very much. Is there a second? Thank you. So all items have been moved forward except item number 6. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Will the clerk please call the roll?
McDonough?
Aye.
McGuire?
Aye.
Ortega?
Aye.
Reinhardt?
Aye.
Fretham?
Aye.
Mattis Castillo?
Aye.
Carter?
Aye. Thank you very much. And we're on item number 6, where we are directing the county manager to eliminate wages below $15 per hour.
Move approval.
Thank you. Thank you. Motion and a second. And actually, the objective was simply to highlight that. It's pretty important. I'll ask County Manager O'Connor for a few words.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is pretty important, the enactment date times with payroll periods, just so that it works out in a way where it's not the middle of one and creates a challenge there. I want to give a shout out to Human Resources, the Talent Attraction, Retention, Promotion sponsors, our labor partners, as we continue to look at being market competitive and continuing to make sure that Ramsey County can employ across all its jobs. There were a number of job classes left where the lowest end of the range started below $15 an hour. Not a lot. I think it was like 6 or 7 total. Many of them were temporary in nature. Some of them were even student internships. As we talk about equity and think about who comes to Ramsey County, even in temporary positions, this matters, right? And when we started the progressive internship, for example, I remember a number of years ago, one of the goals was to not ask people to work 2 or 3 jobs while also going to school, because it alleviates one burden in a way where you can learn and grow at the same time. This is just one of those steps along the way. It removes the bottom end of any wage scale below $15. It could in the future lead to slight wage compression challenges, but in reality, we have not been starting people in many cases below 15, except in some internships and stuff anyway. And so it's an important move to make to formalize work that's already kind of been taking place and set a stage for moving forward.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments, questions? Wages? Yes, go
I
ahead.
just wanted to make one quick observation. I read the documentation. I'm glad we're doing this. Sometimes it makes you wonder how come it took us so long to get to that, right? $125,000 to $150,000 a year impact. We have many people in Ramsey County that one person makes that in a year, right? And we're going to have an impact on a lot of people. So I'm glad this is coming forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Wages matter. All right. Would you please call the roll?
McDonough?
Aye.
McGuire?
Aye.
Ortega?
Aye.
Reinhardt?
Aye.
Spretham?
Aye.
Mattis Castillo?
Aye.
Carter?
Aye. And the item passes. Thank you very much. We'll move on then to our policy item. Another important item before us, our Housing and Redevelopment Authority area of operation. Community and Economic Development has brought this forward today. And the item is to approve the Ramsey County Housing and Redevelopment Authority area of operation countywide with the exclusion of North St. Paul. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you very much for the motion, for the second. I do see Carrie Collins, our Director of, come on up. You know we're sprinting, but it's great to hear from you on this item.
Awesome, thank you. First, in reaction to COVID-19 update, Commissioner Fretham, you don't let those younger millennials tell you what to do. You hold the line. I was going to give an update in terms of the chronology. Of course, this is in reaction to the Economic Competitiveness and Inclusion Plan, which saw the absence of this tool as a barrier to advancing affordable housing. And so I'll just really take this opportunity to thank the team that brought us to this consideration today, and that is Attorney Amy Schmidt and Heather Bessler, Chris Samuel, our communications department, of course, County Manager O'Connor and Deputy County Manager Joanna Berg for their leadership, and the smaller commissioner team, the HRA team that is Commissioner Mattis Castillo and Ryan Hart, who participated in many meetings and many calls on this particular topic. And so, yes, what this does, it defines the area of operation. We are statutorily required to do that prior to July 1st in preparation for a 2022 levy. And the consideration before you today does recognize an equitable distribution of funds, 50-50 across St. Paul and suburban Ramsey County, in feedback from our local community partners on that. And so with that, I'll pause for any questions and discussion.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Commissioner McDonough.
I just want to make sure we're celebrating this and just right? I mean, I was chair of the board in 2003, and when Commissioner Parker was still known as Commissioner Wiesner, we went around and met with every mayor in this county to have a conversation about an HRA levy. And that goes back a long time. And it's, you know, there's been a lot of hurdles, there's been a lot of reasons why we haven't been able to do this before, but we need to celebrate this. This is a big deal. Thanks to the great work of, you know, you two for getting out there and doing a better job than Jen and I did in 03 with these mirrors. And thanks to you and your team for your leadership in recognizing how important this is.
Yeah, thanks to the entire board. Thanks for the work you did to toil the soil way back when. Thanks for the work you did to cultivate it. The two commissioner team here. Thanks to all of you for all of our support moving forward, and clearly to the team of staff members who have made it happen. So a woo-hoo is in order as we move forward. Any further discussion? Thank you. Would the clerk please? Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Fretham.
I just wanted to thank Director Carrie Collins again for joining the Shoreview EDA and City Council last night to talk about the HRA levy, and we got to also hear about their Shoreview housing study, which they have been doing some amazing work on looking at how do they increase affordability in the Shoreview community. So it was just really fortuitous timing, and a lot of our cities are really ready for this, so I'm excited.
Fantastic, thank you. Commissioner Reinhardt.
Well, and I'd like to thank the staff and other commissioners, especially Commissioner Martis Castillo, for the support in going out to the suburbs, because granted we had the city of St. Paul and then North St. Paul that we needed to get them to come along and to pass resolutions in support of this or not. And even with North St. Paul, the discussion was great. And it was very clear that they will basically see how this goes and may very well come in at a later date, because they have things that they talked about that they wanted to do that they can't do without additional support. But I do think that it's important, as we are going out to the communities. Tonight is the city of White Bear Lake. I've been going out to the suburbs and letting them know what this is and what it isn't, because there was a lot of misperceptions out there about the fact that the county was just going to take over all the housing and we were going to do whatever we wanted. And this is still really working with the community, whether it's St. Paul or it's Shoreview or Maplewood, wherever it is how can we make this work for our communities and to get what we need and want for affordable housing and mixed income housing, for the labor market, for equity. I mean, all of the positive things that come from that. And so by taking the time, by staff taking the time to go out and meet and present to the city councils, do workshops, that has made all the difference in the world. Because instead of just kind of wondering, they've got facts in front of them. And when they get those, then they get why this makes sense. Also, the fact that this is something that would be levied in 2022 and be available in 2023, because that was one of the other questions that came up. Well, why can't we wait? Well, we're already behind. We're way behind. And to go any further, the communities, quite frankly, as part of Ramsey County, need this additional funding in order to keep the communities really vibrant economically, with housing and all that comes with that. So I just want to do a huge shout out to staff for the amount of work that they have done and continue to do. It wasn't just about the two that we needed to get out and figure out what would make the most sense for them, but it's the whole county. And our staff and us as a board has never forgotten that. And that's one of the reasons that the 50-50 is in there, because we have experience with that, with the Environmental Response Fund. We know how to do it. It's not always exact, but we get it done so that the entire county benefits from this. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Martis.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. Since we're saying thank yous, I want to thank all of you all, too. I talked to lots of housing advocates that really wanted to get behind and rally, and who should we contact? And they said, all the commissioners are on board already. So they didn't have the opportunity to whip vote. So I just wanted to say, thank you all very much for being supportive and for sharing in the vision plan and the development of our vision plan and inclusive plan, and to really make this happen. So I wanted to thank you all. Commissioner McDonough, you laid the groundwork many years ago, and as we know in this work, sometimes it takes a long time, and so I'm glad that you raised that point to celebrate that we're here today, and it wasn't just one or two of us, but really, truly all of us. So I wanted to thank you all too. So woohoo!
I want to let Commissioner Martis Castillo have the last words, but I just have to say too, that, many of us, we were all in those meetings with our cities, because some of our cities were not in favor of this, for a long time. While I was here, my cities were not in favor of this, so it took this effort by you, by our department, by you, Director Collins, and your staff, to just educate our cities and get them to be in partnership with us. And this is a great step forward. I mean, I know we're all celebrating it, but this is a great sign of things to come in this area and in many areas, because we are in partnership with our communities, and this is just one great example of that. So thank you so much for that and bringing our communities along with us.
Commissioner Ortega. Might as well round it out.
Just want to echo what everybody
I want to hear Raphael woohoo.
Okay. That's great, thanks.
Look, you know, Carrie's done. I think the staff has made a big difference this time around. They really worked it and did a good job. And congrats.
A man of few words, thank you. And so from 2003 to 2023 for availability. Yep. We celebrate this as we move forward in the vote. Would you please call the roll?
McDonough?
Aye.
McGuire?
Aye.
Ortega?
Aye.
Reinhardt?
Aye.
Gretham?
Aye.
Mattis Castillo?
Aye.
Carter?
Aye, thank you. And the item has passed. We have approved the Housing and Redevelopment Authority area of operation. We're moving on to an ordinance procedure, having had our first and second reading and the public hearing last week. We will move on to item number 11 on our agenda, the Ramsey County Commissioner's Salary Ordinance for 2022. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you for the motion and second. Are there any items of discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
McDonough?
Aye.
McGuire?
Aye.
Ortega?
Aye.
Reinhardt?
Aye.
Gretham?
Aye.
Mattis Castillo?
Aye.
Carter?
Aye. Thank you very much. That item has passed, and we'll ask for a legislative update.
Thank you, Madam
Commissioner
Chair.
McGuire.
Legislature continues to move forward on their bills. They're hoping to finish by the end of the month. That's what everyone says they're going to, and we're going to stand by that. The government affairs team thinks they'll get there, but not without a lot of speeches and a lot of delays, but we do think we'll get there. So just thanks again to our team who continue to do a lot of work with the hearings and with our legislators. So hopefully we've got some bright spots that are emerging. Hopefully they'll get signed by the governor and get through all the committees, but because nothing's done until it's signed into law. But we're very hopeful that the second train advocates have secured $10 million in cash, and we're really hoping that that stays in there. More money in public health, money in homelessness issues, and so we're really grateful that there's some movement in issues that we really need and really care about. So they've only finished the legacy higher ed and commerce bills, but and there are some sticky issues in health and human services, transportation, taxes, jobs, public safety, and a possible bonding bill. So we have some work to do, but they are moving forward on these. We're hoping they have a bonding bill. I guess there's some talk about whether that happens or not. But so things are still in flux, but hopefully moving forward in a positive direction.
Thank you.
Yes, we're keeping our fingers crossed.
County Manager O'Connor.
Oh, sorry, Madam Chair, I was just crossing my fingers.
Oh, I see. Okay, Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll report a little bit more on the Clean Water Council when we get around to updates, but I do want to talk a little bit about the legacy bill. We have two legislators who are on the Clean Water Council and really appreciate the work that they did to try to get the Clean Water Council's recommendations adopted. Working with the governor, working with the agencies, it was a lot of work, and generally it was a very positive outcome for the recommendations that come from across the state. With that said, and with the thanks to the legislators, I do want to point out that it was stated to us that they stripped anything, the projects that were in there, or the program areas that were in there, that they stripped anything that had to do with equity. And as I said, most of what we recommended went through, so we're not talking about a lot of money. but anything that had to do with equity, and they were very clear about the fact that that's why they stripped it. And said that clean environment is for all Minnesotans. And as I'm listening to this, I am thinking, you're absolutely right. It is. The point of making recommendations was because it is not equitable. You look at the number of farmers of color who have received the funding through the state of Minnesota compared to non-people of color or white farmers. And you know, the fact of the matter is, they all need this assistance, but they weren't getting it at the same rate. And there are lots of other examples, which is why the Clean Water Council called it out. And so it was very upsetting to me and sad that to say that, you know, as if somehow by saying that we want to make it more equitable, that we're saying it's not for all. And even, you know, when you look at finally the movement that is making a difference in equity across many different areas, not just in this, but it's not about somebody not being, that we don't value as much. It's about the fact that we have valued less for so long, that we need to try to make up for that, at least try. And actually it was said to the Clean Water Council members in a way that was saying, you know, don't do that again. Well, I'm going to do it again. So, and I think that, again, clean environment is for every single Minnesotan. You bet it is. And by trying to make sure that those that need the funds to do the farming practices or the business work that needs to be done to make that happen, to make that more equitable, makes it all better for everyone. So I needed to call that out because I was, as I said, I mean, part of me was just sad that that's where we're at, that you can pretend that it's, quite frankly, again, pretend that it is equitable right now, and it isn't. So we will continue to work, and I know that there are many different areas. This is just one small area, but we'll continue to work and try to make sure that we are getting the program information out to folks, even if it's not, you know, really a program that's dedicated to that or a project that is dedicated to that. We can still deal with this. And so I needed to say that because of the fact that it was stated very bluntly. The reason it was pulled was because of that.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm really glad Commissioner Reinhardt gave us a reality check of what they are doing down there. I mean, the reason that they're taking a long time is that these bills that are being compromised are taking out a lot of things that some of us really support. So they're getting through the bills, and I probably sounded too optimistic that they're going to get done. We are glad they're going to get done, but they are taking things, they're not passing these bills the way many people intended them to happen. They're compromising so that they can get done, and many things that we would like to see in these bills are not going to happen. And that is really unfortunate. So I appreciate you bringing that out. We'll celebrate some of the things that we're glad for in these bills, but we are not, you know, part of the legislature is wanting to do all the things that need to get done, and part of the legislature is not. And so we're struggling. They're struggling with that to get done. There's going to be a lot of compromise that won't include things that we want.
Avoiding a government shutdown is worthwhile.
Yes.
Getting some things done that we need, such as you have mentioned, and calling out those things that aren't happening so that we can all stand together and ensure that this year and in coming years, we are able to lift up that importance. Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks for the legislative update, and we'll move on to County Connections. County Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I'm just going to highlight a few items that were on today's agenda. Thanks for voting earlier to approve them. I won't mention anything else on the HRA piece. I think enough was said, but it was a big deal. Items 4 and 5, both were labor agreements that were reached, and there's been a number of them that have come through over the last couple of months. And I just wanted to give a shout out to our labor leaders and our HR staff who have been working diligently on these. This has been an unprecedented, difficult year in terms of being able to find a way forward in uncertain at best economic and times of health. It's been really hard on everybody. It's taken leadership from all sides and listening and flexibility. We moved from doing a 3-year agreement to 1-year agreements and all the challenges that come with us, which basically mean right on the heels of finishing these, we are back at it again here in the months ahead. And that's draining on people. But I think it was important and the right thing to do. And I think generally that would be agreed upon. And I think all of these different agreements coming through just signifies that. And I want to take a moment and appreciate all the many people from the management side who sit around the table, but also the labor partner side who sit around and work with their members to ensure that we're doing this as a collective. I know it's been hard, and I just want to say thank you to all of them. Finally, just wanted to highlight the good news of we got the emergency repairs piece at Larpenteur Avenue on today. That was a quick move. Big shout out to Abby for her work and helping get it through on a tight timeline, and Public Works, in addition to planning for the actual repair, planning to do the documentation to authorize the actual repair is a very real thing, and to bid it out. So thanks to everyone for their hard work in that space. That's all I got, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the update, and we will move on then to our outside board and committee reports. I will start that with Commissioner McGuire, and then we'll go around.
Great. Okay, good. Thanks. I won't take long, but I do
Don't
have a few
laugh.
things. I have a few things that I want to get done. I know. I'll try not to take long. The MELSA board met in our regular meeting, and I've mentioned before, but we're starting our strategic planning session, and so it's really exciting that it's the regional library board. We're going to come together, and we have a great new board, 3 new commissioners that are new to county government, and we're all just anxious to really ask the good questions. So I'm happy about that. I am really excited about our Child Care Policy Action Group, because we've all on this board been so supportive and advocating for early childhood effort in this county, and we are just making such great strides in making that more a part of our system and part of our work. And we've hired December Brakefield, I'm guessing when she actually starts, which will be June 28th, as our early childhood coordinator, that we have really taken a great step in our county to just make sure that this happens throughout the county, but she'll coordinate that. And the group that has been meeting wants to continue to meet, so the community is very excited about that, and we have great turnout. Commissioner Fretham and I are on these meetings, and we have great staff that are helping pull it together, and it's just great to see that the community wants that coordination and that work to continue with us. So I don't know if Commissioner Fretham can mention it again when she has her turn. But it's a great group, and thanks to the county for putting that forward. And then Active Living Ramsey Communities met in our quarterly meeting. We're getting so many people in these meetings on Zoom, so I think we'll do 1 meeting a month in person, 1 meeting a year in person, and the other 3 maybe on Zoom, because people have just found it so much easier to come to these meetings. And we heard a great presentation it was on rethinking I-94, but it was just the whole idea of how we think about transportation, and MnDOT is just really coming along. We have work to do, but we heard from Gloria Jeff. If ever you get a chance to hear from her, she's amazing, and just talks about the issues of equity and accessibility and sustainability in the transportation system. And MnDOT is great to have that effort. She says, yep, transportation is changing, and we're coming along. So just fun. It was good to hear that. So work continues, but those were some great meetings. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Reinhardt. No, who would be next? I lost
Ortega.
it. Commissioner Ortega. Okay.
Madam Chair,
I'm sorry.
in the, just one event, I just want to call out Paul Mandel, who's the director of the Capital District Planning Commission, if that's the appropriate name. Anyway, Paul and I go back to the mid-'80s when we used to work together, but He was very helpful for us during the Bethesda when we were putting together the homeless shelter. So big shout out to Paul. His retirement was Friday, and the best to him. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I used to go alphabetically when we were on Zoom, but I'm back to the table now. Commissioner Fretham.
No further update.
Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I, first of all, want to thank staff and all the work that went into the Rush Line open houses regarding the environmental assessment. The comment period for the federal guidelines and what we need to do in order to ultimately receive federal funding. So the guidelines state that by June 25th, those comments have to be in on the environmental assessment. That doesn't mean that's the end of public comment on the entire project, but it is that phase of it. We've gotten really some, I think, wonderful comments and questions and ideas as we've gone through these meetings, and the last one was on, I think it was last Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday, I don't remember what day it was on, but it was at the Union Depot, and it was very well attended, and it was in person, and it was just really kind of cool to be there and to have that happening in person. Another thing that was the first time in person in over 15 months was the White Bear Area Chamber of Commerce had its networking luncheon, and it was outside at the Bruntrup Farm, the Maplewood Historical Society location on County Road D, and just really had a great time. I did point out that I had commented on the CARES funding that had gone out and how White Bear Lake and Maplewood had been up high on that list as far as gaining access, and gave them a lot of credit because they got that information out. The moment anything would come out, they would just, I would send it to them, or they would get it from other locations and get it out to folks. And so they were very pleased to be able to offer that and accept, or to get the funding to the local businesses there. Many of them are very small businesses. I also attended the Ramsey County Library Board meeting, and it was a great discussion on a lot of different things, including the fact that we are going to have this facilitated discussion with a lot of pre-work that is going to be done, so that when we go into that facilitated discussion, that we can make sure that we are not just aligned, but really working together as partners. And one of the things that I stated was that the idea from the very beginning of this is to have the library more involved in Residents First, not less, more involved. And, some of the daily administrative stuff, we do that as a county. But to get really what the programming, the, prosperity, opportunity, well-being, and accountability for all, we don't want them sitting on the sidelines, which in some cases that's what's happening, but we want them really involved and enmeshed in how to get that done as a Board of Trustees. And so I am really excited and optimistic because I think we will get on the same page, and the support from Chair Carter and others on this board has been really important to that discussion. So I think we're in a good spot right now. We'll get that done. We had hoped to have that facilitated discussion by the end of June, but to make sure we're doing it right and to get those pre-meetings in place so that we don't go in and have to rehash everything in a facilitated discussion. But when we get there, we've all got the same information from a legal standpoint, from a policy standpoint, from a vision standpoint, all of those things together, we'll be able to get it done. So. And then finally, I do want to talk just a little bit more about the Clean Water Council. We had really great presentations, but I want to highlight one in particular. Mr. Patrice Bailey is the Assistant Director of the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, and I think the title of his, and I hope I get this You know what? I'm not even going to try to say it, just in case I say it wrong. But he was from Harlem, and he is the first African-American commissioner, assistant commissioner in the Department of Ag's history in Minnesota. And the fact that he's from Harlem, and he said, you know, farming was not something that they really discussed there. But he had an interest in it, and he went to a World Food Conference to talk about food and farming, and he met, and I thought this was just really funny. As a person from Harlem, he would see the commercials for Pepperidge Farm. And they had a spokesman, and I don't remember the name of the spokesman, but he knew it very well. Patrice did. And he was at this conference, and he met that spokesman. And he said that was the day that he knew he had to be a farmer, because he met the spokesperson from Pepperidge Farms. And the fact that, I mean, he just had no exposure to this. And he has just flourished and absolutely loves it. And everything is about, you know, doing farming and doing it in a sustainable way. And so I just wanted to share that story with you, because I thought it was just so incredible to say, you know, when you think about it, what's more important than clean air, clean water, food, so that you can sustain life. So anyhow, I wanted to share that with you because I thought it was kind of special.
And it is. Thank you very much. Commissioner Mascasio.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. I want to give a great shout out to our Parks and Recs team. Lake McCarran's is reopened, the E. coli is under control, and lifeguards are on site over the weekend. So that's a really great thing for our community. I have taken my kids there and swimming, and I will tell you it's one of our most diversely used parks in our system, and so it's really important. You know, it's the closest to the city of St. Paul, and a lot of folks in apartments that use that as an outlet, and so it's really important to have that cleaned up and get the goose stuff under control, so it's clean water for them to swim in, as we're talking about clean water. So thanks to Parks and Rec for that work that they did. Also wanted to mention that I attended the Transit Advisory Board of the Met Council, and we had a great presentation from Tom Fisher from the University of Minnesota about what does post-pandemic life look like as in the way of transportation and housing, and how we're rethinking use. And thinking about the reduction of the use of cars and increased transit, and also increased bikes. Bike sales have been up 135%, and bike usage is up. And one of the members said, well, but you know, now that we're back, people are going to want their cars. And they have done incredible research at the U. And he said, you know, it's funny, when we look at research, we look at history. And exactly 100 years ago in 1920, they did a big survey about people and how we're going to now have cars on the road widely used. And people said, well, no one's going to want to give up their horses. And so it's the same conversation 100 years later, because they had an emotional attachment. And so they said, people have an emotional attachment to their cars. The reality is, we'll get through this too, and we can see change and embrace that change, to rethink about land use, think about how we're reusing maybe office building and converting to housing, because housing is the greatest need and locality. So it was a really great report. If you want to see it, I certainly can share it with you, but worth the view. Tom Fisher always does a great job with his university students. And then lastly, I know Commissioner Ortega channeled this over to me to remind you that the Riverview Corridor virtual open house is tomorrow evening from 6 o'clock on Zoom, and so we welcome everyone to participate in that.
And thank you for being the channel. Commissioner McDonough.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Did Vice President Fisher show you the Times Square picture with one car and all horses, and 25 years later, the same spot, it's all cars and the one horse.
Right.
In 25 years, that complete transition.
Pretty awesome.
So, I just, one quick report out here. You know, life happens in our community every day. We celebrate tragedies happen, you know, the resiliency comes through, but the Santa Foundation, which just does tremendous work on the east side with our kids, and they really have an impact in our kids, and they're the kids that we would see farther down the line, and we don't want to see them there, and they are really making some interventions in families and the work they do, and they really stepped up in COVID, providing distance learning opportunities for kids that didn't have support at home, and getting food out into the community and working with us. And they had a fire at 4 a.m. Fire marshal determined it was arson. That was sad to hear. But I know Tony Santa really well, and he was on the phone at 4:30, and they were figuring out how to manage these kids that were coming in 2 hours, and they didn't miss a beat. And they're really plugging away, but they are in the middle of a capital campaign to help get that building back in shape so they can welcome kids and families back in. I just want to call out the work. There are some great, good people all over our community that do good work. But Tony and his group are one of these people, they just plow ahead, right? They just plow ahead every single day. It's not about necessarily the visibility, but it really is about the impact they have in our community. So best of luck to Tony. And I just wanted to make sure, you know, if you got a moment, go to his webpage. He's got a way for you can help out with $25 or $2,500 if you got the opportunity to do that. So
thank
thanks,
you
Madam
all
Chair.
for your reports. I appreciate it. I am going to hold mine because we are moving toward a workshop that should start around 10:30. Just want to say that there were a lot of things going on for Juneteenth at Rondo Plaza, at Allianz Field, of course. I was at a Peace Festival on Friday and had the opportunity of being together with Rose McGee, who wrote Kumbaya, the Juneteenth Story. It is a play that was written many, many years ago about Juneteenth, about 30 years ago. Lots going on. I'm going to hold my comments. Oh, one more. Pastor Thelma Battle Buckner has passed. And you may all remember her. She is a longtime pastor, mentor, mother, friend in the community. She comes from a very musical family. They will be conducting Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday ceremonies in her honor. Wednesday is a concert at Shiloh Baptist Church in St. Paul. Thursday, she will be lying in state at her church, Gospel Temple. And Friday, her celebration of life will be at Shiloh Temple as well. So I will conclude my comments at this point, although I'd love to share more. We have a lot coming up at 10:30. We, of course, have a workshop. Before that, we will have our HRA meeting very quickly. Commissioner Matis Castillo will take us through that. We have a workshop at 1:30 also. At 10:30, it will be Safety and Justice led by Commissioner Ortega, and we will have as guests the Community First Public Safety Commission of St. Paul. At 1:30 this afternoon, we will be reviewing state fair requests for security services. All of our meetings today are in the council chambers. Is that correct? That is correct. And we are now adjourned.